Today's a fun one. We're standing here in front of Colton's F150, and I just thought it was a 250, looked like a standard old school Ford truck, and you did a few things with this, didn't you?
Yeah, it's not exactly stock anymore.
She's not exactly street legal.
Remove the restrictor plate.
Well, the obvious thing that's been done to this is when it pulled up to the shop, it had quite a bit of rattle to it. That's not a rod bearing, is it, Colton?
Well, it could sound like a Ford rod bearing sometimes, I guess. But
so what is this?
So it's a 93 12 valve rotary pump. The pump's turned up. I didn't overdo the motor. I want it to, it gets 17, 18 miles a gallon, so I'm trying to keep it, reliable.
And the goal of this truck, you've had it for a while, you just want it to be like a nice daily driver, right?
Like I don't want a truck payment. I like old trucks and put a little money in at a time into it. Yeah,
So you put the 12 valve in here, rotary pump, 93, nothing crazy turned up. Looks like you got the intercooler in here too. Is that the 93 intercooler?
Yes, it is.
So the intercooler.
Or actually, that's the second gen.
So that'd be 94.
Yeah.
Yeah. So intercooler. And 93, even in the rotary, had an intercooler. That was the last, like right at the end. There's a couple of years they had intercoolers. I think 91 to 93.
Right.
Anyway, you put hydraulic clutch, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's actually off of a half-ton Dodge Dakota or whatever came with the 4500.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that is because it bolts to the firewall. So it made it easier to hook up.
And also, you have an NV4500, so that way the slave cylinder that goes with that will go right on the NV, push it properly, actuate it properly. So it's got a later model NV4500 from a Dodge. And then what about the brake booster?
The brake booster is a 99 to 02 Super Duty.
Okay, so you're starting to mix some things up.
Yes.
We haven't told them what's underneath yet.
Right.
So why don't you take a look underneath? So what exactly is that?
So that is a 2005 Super Duty axle that I purchased from you a couple years ago.
And then we set you up with our universal radius arm kit.
Yeah, I got the radius arms from you.
Just mounted those at the bottom of the frame. Yep. And then you built your own track bar bracket up on the frame and your own upper coil buckets, right?
Yeah, so
those coil buckets are pretty simple, just plate steel.
Right. I bought the coils from factory Ford. They're like,
so those are stock Super Duty coils.
Stock F250.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then one of the other things I like that you did on your own, obviously we offer a track bar bracket. You didn't buy ours, but I like what you did on this track bar. So you filled up the ball joint hole and then double sheared it and used the 1.25 inch Heim joint.
Yep.
So that thing's rad. This is our universal drag link kit that goes from the factory Super Duty drag link. And then you're running a GM 2027. So that steering box that's on here?
Yeah.
What is that?
That's a factory F150 steering box.
So you just hooked up the factory power steering F150 box, to the Saginaw P Series pump that's on that Cummins.
And you can steer with one wheel with 37s on the pavement.
And look at this, 37-inch tires with the classic, like the Mickey Thompson look,
Like retro.
So as far as the underneath cross member transmission transfer case setup, what do you got in there?
So I have it's the NV4500 241.
So they call that, I think, a 241 DHD.
Yeah,
it was in like 94 to 99 or something.
Second gen.
Aluminum case, chain drive, but super easy to hook up the shifter and stuff.
Yeah, and I rebuilt it too.
And then what'd you do underneath there for a cross member?
So it's just a square cross member. I did, urethane bushings.
And I noticed when we drove it up here, the truck's got a little Cummins rattle to it because you got urethane motor mounts too, right?
So I don't want anything moving. So
absolutely, yep. And then in the rear end, you also use the 10.5 factory disc brake that would have come with the Super Duty front, right?
Yeah.
What gear ratio are you running?
So they're 373s. And with the 37, it's really nice down the road.
5-speed 373s and 37s is perfect.
Yeah.
Other than that, the one thing I really liked when we got in and drove it up here, take a look inside here. He's got his gauges all figured out. So that's a Bluetooth smooth body dash. And notice the one gauge you got there up in the dash. What's that say? The only one you need. Boost,
it's
right?
The boost gauge, yeah.
That's the boost gauge.
Yeah.
There's a couple snuck down there on the bottom, right? Water temperature, oil pressure, but
yeah, you just need the important gauges,
And the Hurst shifter.
Right.
And the wood grain steering wheel.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, it's all vintage.
Doesn't get any better than this. So anybody looking to build a nice dent side Ford F-150, you can pretty much mirror this entire build. And we can set you up with the radius arms. We actually even have some universal upper coil buckets now for this vintage of frame, and our drag link kit and our track bar kit, and it's basically a slap their Super Duty in and go, huh?
Yep.
Wait, one more thing that you mentioned to me as we were pulling around this tree. What's one of the big benefits of having that Super Duty axle?
So this thing will turn on a dime.
We pulled in right here and pulled around the tree, and I pull some Jeeps in here that don't turn that sharp.
Yeah, no, it turns super sharp. So I love that Super Duty.
You got badass brakes, you got good turning radius, and the ride on this thing literally feels like a stock Ford truck pulling into a parking lot. It's just plush, you know.
Yeah.
Back's a little bumpy.
The back's a little bumpy. You put weight in it, it's a little better.
So all in all, one of the best upgrades I've ever seen to a F-150.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for bringing it by, Colton.
All right, thanks, Trevor.